There is a moment at night when silence stops being empty. It thickens. It gathers weight. And if you are still enough, you realize something subtle has changed. The quiet is no longer waiting. It is listening. Most people never notice this hour. They fill it with noise, screams, movement, excuses. But those who remain awake without distraction feel it clearly. The air shifts, thoughts slow down, and the dark begins to register more than it reveals. This is not the hour of fear. Fear comes earlier. This is the hour of attention, when shadows stop behaving like absence and start behaving like presence, not approaching, but aligning. Some say shadows follow light. That is a lie told by the daytime. At night, shadows follow intention. They lean toward what is unresolved, toward what was never spoken aloud, toward questions that survived inside you, long after you stopped asking them. And somewhere in that alignment, without sound, without form, a shadow begins to listen, not to your voice, not to your thoughts, but to the part of you that has been speaking quietly for years. Long before anything speaks, it is recorded. The night keeps archives that were never written, memories without language, events that happened inside people, and were never allowed to become stories. Nothing disappears here. It only sinks. Beneath the visible dark, there is another layer, not deeper, but denser, the place where moments compress, where choices leave residue, and where unresolved lives form patterns instead of memories. This is where the shadow that listens resides. Not as a figure, not as a watcher, but as a function. It does not judge what reaches it. It organizes. It waits until enough weight accumulates to justify a response. Every hesitation you never voiced, every truth you postponed, every instinct you silenced to survive, they pass through here. Not immediately, not dramatically. They settle slowly, like sediment at the bottom of still water. And when the night grows quiet enough, those sediments begin to align. Patterns emerge. Connections form between moments that never met in time. That is when the shadow listens most closely, because something is about to surface. There comes a moment when the night stops collecting and starts responding, not loudly, not clearly, but with precision. The air tightens. Time stretches just enough for something unseen to reposition itself. This is when presence takes form, not a body, but an alignment, a density that knows where to stand, without needing to move. You feel it not in fear, but in recognition, as if something familiar has finally stopped hiding. The shadow does not approach. It waits for you to notice, for the shift in breathing, for the moment your thoughts slow, and your attention becomes heavy. Only then does the response begin, not as words, but as internal rearrangement. Questions you never framed start organizing themselves. Memories lose their noise and keep only meaning. You are not given answers. You are given structure. And suddenly, confusion feels intentional. This is the night's first reply. Not revelation, but readiness. Because some truths cannot enter a mind that is still cluttered with survival. Every system has intersections, points where movement pauses, long enough to decide direction. In the night, these crossings are alive. They recognize footsteps, they remember hesitation, and they respond accordingly. Here stands Exu of the Seven Crossroads, not as myth, not as threat, but as orientation made conscious. He does not force choice. He reveals consequence. Every path already knows what it will cost you. Close by, where movement narrows, stands Trancaruus. He does not block roads. He removes illusions. What remains accessible is what you are actually prepared to walk. Everything else fades without conflict. Above these crossings, like a silent lunar map, 7 moons observes. He counts cycles, not days. He measures inner tides, not time. From him you learn. That repetition is not failure. It is instruction. Together, they do not command the night. They stabilize it, ensuring that no transition happens without awareness. Midnight is not a time. It is a correction point, a recalibration where excess is removed, and essence remains. The world exhales. The unnecessary loosens its grip, and something exact steps forward. This is where Exu of Midnight operates. He does not appear. He aligns. Internal clocks reset. Hidden imbalances surface. What was postponed can no longer remain undefined. Alongside him moves the Pambajira of Midnight. She does not seduce. She clarifies desire. Her presence strips longing of fantasy and leaves only what is real. What survives her gaze is what deserves continuation. At this hour, nothing can be negotiated emotionally. Only truth with structure remains. The night does not punish. It edits. And what is removed does not disappear. It simply returns to where it belongs. There is a silence, deeper than calm, a pause so complete that even intention hesitates. This is where precision enters. Exu Kavera works here, not with fear, with accuracy. He separates what can transform from what has already expired. No cruelty, no mercy, only function. Above, listening to vibrations, moves Exu Morcego. He hears what is unsaid, tracks frequencies instead of words. Fifth is never loud. It hums. Between them dances Rosa Kavera. Her movement is discernment. She knows when to cut and when to hold. Compassion with edge. Sensitivity with boundary. Nothing dramatic happens here. Only irreversible clarity. When the night becomes narrow, only precision moves forward. Not strength. Not belief. Precision. Exu Veludo steps softly. Elegant. Measured. A diplomat of shadows. He negotiates fate without spectacle. Where conflict dissolves into agreement, he has already passed. Then comes Joao Caveira. His presence settles things. He rearranges destinies. Like ancient bones finding proper order. Nothing new is created. Only what was scattered returns to axis. Pambajira Dama de Noite follows. Black and gold. Grace and authority. She exposes desire without shame. And truth without softness. No one lies in her presence. Not even inwardly. And when structure needs inversion, Exu Miram appears. Not childish. Primordial. He flips paths, breaks rigid logic, and reveals truths only innocence can access. Some presences do not speak. They conclude. They carry the last adjustment. Before movement resumes. Exu Kalunga governs depth, not distance. He turns memory into passage, and history into doorway. Nothing stays trapped. Where he moves, Pambajira of the souls follows. She gathers fragments, without judgment, connects endings to beginnings. Without attachment, every meeting becomes transition. When the whisper finishes, 7 crossroads returns, not to open paths, but to reflect them. Each direction echoes possibility. Listening becomes choice. The function is complete. The night recedes. Satisfied. The night is not chaos. It is design. A living architecture that adapts to who walks inside it. Corridors stretch or compress. Walls remember pressure. Every step alters structure. Nothing is fixed. Everything responds. What you call confusion is simply a space, not yet understood. The architecture waits until you are capable of navigation. Those who learn to listen move effortlessly, not because paths are easier, but because resistance dissolves. The night does not test. It reveals readiness. Eventually, everything returns to stillness, not emptiness. Completion. The night closes like an eye that has understood enough. Nothing dramatic remains. Only internal order. Those who cross do not emerge enlightened. They emerge aligned. And that is far more dangerous. Because alignment changes behavior. Choices shift. Silence gains weight. And life rearranges itself. Without explanation. The night does not want followers. It wants witnesses. Those who remember. What listens in the dark. and walk differently because of it.